Hello and welcome to the FOGS Queenslander Podcast, preview of Origin 1 2026. Yes, Origin is here, and once again, I'm joined by three FOGS, number 9, 51 and 173, Wally Lewis, Trevor Gilmister and Matt Gillett. Welcome, gentlemen. It comes around very quickly. What's the build-up like, the excitement levels for you guys when you talk about Game 1 compared to other games?
It's probably, if you're making your debut, it's completely different to if you had a few more games under your belt. So obviously that's a huge thing to make your debut in Game 1. But yeah, I mean, you don't treat it like a normal game, but in the back of your mind, you know, it's going to be the fastest game you've ever played in your life again. And then obviously the blokes around you that you know, the gun players as well. So you don't. The beauty about, just for me, was I had to take my game to another level because the other blokes around me were so good. So that was really good.
Yeah, and I think, Gilly, the build-up to the game, while it might race by for some of the players, certainly the new guys, the ones that don't have a lot of experience, will use every bit of that time. It'll be extremely valuable to them to be able to get to understand the pattern of play that they're about to put into place, and also feel quite comfortable with the preparation that it's given them enough time to be able to feel as though they've been there, done that, and are in no way, shape or form feeling extremely nervous and have a fear of failure.
It's obviously very exciting for the whole group and the coaching staff included. You know, 3 biggest games coming up in Origin, so for our boys to be back in camp and under preparation, obviously trying to build a few little combinations there through your prep. Obviously we got a new halfback with Walker, but yeah, mate, very exciting. Debutants, you know, they'll be learning and understanding the history of the Maroons jersey and who played before them. So yeah, very excited. But yeah, obviously once you're in the camp, you settle down a bit, you've done all your media, and when it's time to train, it's train. So no doubt the boys have prepped pretty well and on the way down to Sydney today.
We'll talk about the new players and particularly the new spine for Queensland as we have a look at the team graphic. The team announced, of course, last week. Much has been written and said over the last week with regards to Kalen Ponga getting that fullback jersey ahead of Reece Walsh, Ezra Mam on the bench. And I think the fact that no Reece Walsh on the bench, Sam Walker replacing Tommy Dearden at halfback. Dearden, of course, out with that leg injury. So there's a number of change. Max Plath getting his first chance at Origin level. What were your initial reactions, gentlemen, when you heard that side?
Well, I was very impressed with the side. I still am, but I mean, the Kalen Ponga Reece Walsh thing, I just think it come down to Reece having those couple of little niggling injuries, and you can't be taking them into Origin, especially your fullback. The amount of running they got to do, you know what I mean. So I just think it's a safe one, but who knows? He can come into the second, third game, you know what I mean. So I don't think it's a big issue. Really pleased to see Sammy Walker get a start. Unbelievable, confidence boost for him. You know, and he's been playing really well for the last 4 or 5 years. So I think at the Roosters and him and Cameron Munster, mate, what a pair that they could be.
A couple of rap
Oh, exactly, yeah. But I mean, on the field, Gillo too as well, that they could just be in sync straight away, possibly. You know what I mean? So, but that's that. The first time they're going to play together, so hopefully they've done they would have done a lot of training together. But training and playing is 2 different things.
How hard is that, Wal? You would know, having to have a couple of halfbacks, but mostly Alan Langer, most of your career. You had a sixth sense with Alf, but when he wasn't there, how different was it for you?
Yeah, you had to almost get used to a different pattern of play, and probably advise the halfback that when you wanted the ball, you had to get the ball. If they decided to take it with them and have a go themselves, well, and then that's fine. There's no disaster there, but certainly to fit into the pattern of play as smoothly as possible and make it quite comfortable. And we've seen some of the halfback 5/8 combinations combinations over the years that have been absolutely wonderful for Queensland, and it's looked, no matter whether they're their first time that they're playing together or they've had dozens of games together, it appears as though that they fully trust each other, and they've proven to be the real great players for Queensland.
Sorry to jump in, but see, Cameron Munster, obviously, and Harry Grant got that bit of synergy together. You know what I mean? So he's used to hearing Cameron's voice, and he knows in the back, he knows he's over on the right or he's hanging back. So hopefully Sammy doesn't go into his shell, and just because obviously when he's at the Roosters, he doesn't. They know when to get the ball, but in Origin's a different kettle of fish altogether. So hopefully Sammy can use his mouth and yell out and mate, don't be afraid to override Cameron sometimes.
Yeah. And I think the classic example of that one is first time Alan Langer got to come into the side. There were a lot of people that expected another halfback to go in there. And I can remember being outside Elf and calling for the ball to watch him go and tear the defensive line apart. And I thought, you little pain in the ass. If I call the ball, I want it. But then I found that every time that he made the decision to go, it was the right choice.
So that leads me to the next point. So does Sam Walker have to be Sam Walker, or does he have to change subtly to fit in with Cam Munster until the two of them work out that they can be themselves?
Well, I should imagine that if it's the boss call coming from Cam Munster, that he wants the ball, that he's got something on, you give it to him. If you make the decision to take the ball and have a go at the opposition defence, I'm sure that we'll see Munster respect the decision that's made from Walker.
The captain always gets the ball.
Well, Max Plath in the back row as well. He's been named in the number 13 jersey with Pat Carrigan on the bench. I think he's been terrific for the Dolphins, starting at hooker with Jeremy Marshall-King, and they've eased him back, and then Plath goes back to lock, playing that Isaiah Yeo type role, if I can use that terminology. And we've said for a number of years, a lot of people watching the game, that he's made for Origin. I'm really excited to see what he brings.
He's a carbon copy of the other bloke, the old bloke. Oh boy,
Johnny Plath.
Johnny Plath.
He
won't be smoking cigarettes on the sideline, but
probably holding out from that. But I've just loved his performances. Like I think that they've been terrific, and I don't think they've failed to impress one single person. Everything that he's produced on the field has been terrific. There's been one or two things that haven't worked out, but geez, that happens with everyone. Everyone, and I think that the trust certainly will be there.
I wouldn't be surprised if Paddy Carrigan did start because too, like then obviously Maxi Plath can cover for Harry Grant too if there's something happens, and Harry needs it. He plays 80 minutes every time anyway, Harry. So, I mean, but there's a little bit of he's got something up his sleeve if something does happen with Harry Grant, or he can play in the halves, Maxi Plath too, if need be. But you've got Ezra Mann there to cover that base as well. So, it's been good.
What do you think?
No, obviously with Harry Grant there, but, Maxi, he's a bit of that link man in the middle. He can, ball play. He's pretty impressive with the ball in hand, but he also knows when to tuck it under the wing and make the meters. But very excited for him to get out there, make his debut. Obviously been, playing some great football with the Dolphins, and he'll be excited to get out there. Whether he starts or he comes off the bench, he's in that Queensland jersey, and I know, and I think we all know here, that Max will be doing his best and. Given everything he's got, and we know his standards will be quite high.
I reckon Gillo. I'm really keen to see him play in the middle because he's defensively right. So he cuts him in half, like most of the time. So big blokes like the big Thomas Flegler and Tino, can go over the top.
Yep.
They don't naturally hit. Under the ball, those big fellas. Maybe Maxi Plath, his natural tackle is under the ball. Hopefully he can, spray a few balls out or something for us as well. But I think that's a big plus too, because if you've got 2-3 blokes going in high all the time, mate, you get in each other's way. You know what I mean? So So defensively, I think Maxi Plaff too, like in the middle of the ruck, will be a really, really good bonus for us.
Well, you brought up the front rowers for Queensland. Tom Flegler, great to see him back after what he has been through. Tino Fasumala-Awi up against Adam Fanua-Blake and Mitch Barnett. The first 10 minutes, 15 minutes are going to be critical in any match, but particularly at the start of the series. What do you see happening with the battle between those two front rows?
Bit of carnage, I think. Obviously, game one, you definitely want to put your stamp on the ground on the game, and as we've seen, obviously the game's getting quite fast, so impact is sort of coming at it a bit. But definitely the start of this game with the size of especially our pack, to really go after theirs and put a stamp on the game with contact, because. Again, once that game sort of speeds up, that contact comes out of it. So our start's going to be very important. And Tommy's obviously hasn't played like a lot of minutes this year, but I'm expecting that.
How good's it to see him back?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Billy would be like, you just go out, mate, give me 10, 15 minutes of your best, and we'll get you back off and go from there. But so pleased to see Tommy back in it. And I think these first 10 minutes of the game will be huge.
Of course, you're sitting beside me, but I'm interested to see how the referees referee this game. Really, if they're gonna
and whether the players have to adjust.
100%. So we've seen the start of the year, they'd said that many 60 goes, it was ridiculous, and it was a joke. And then they reined it in. Over the last weekend. So are they going to let it flow, just like with the players, dictate the terms, or is the referee going to come in and go, 6 to go, and stuff like that, and ruin the game? I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
I'm not the greatest fan of the 6 to go. I mean, it can be 20 of them take place throughout the match, and there's not a lot of judgment going to be made on each one of them. Sure, you like to see a more open, entertaining style of game. But at different stages throughout the course of the match, they can be very painful, particularly getting towards the end of each half.
The Origin games are fast enough.
You wonder how much quicker it could.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. How are they just going to and you got a bit of an idea because that the extra interchange.
Yeah.
And
Gilly, on the replay of the match, if there was a penalty given, there's 9 times out of 10 there's always a replay. And that's what it's for, and they'll take a look at it, and you'll make your own judgment on it. On the 6 to goes, that doesn't happen.
No.
They're almost sweep it under the carpet. Let's just keep going and keep the game going. I mean, it can offer a very open, entertaining game, but there are times I think where
you're right. Sorry to jump in, they're a law unto themselves with the 6 to go, aren't you?
There's no accountability. There's no real accountability.
No. Wally's 1,000% right, because when there's a penalty, they should show it and go, okay, right, that's justified. But the 6 to go, you're 100%. Well, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
One thing that may play a role in the game as well is the weather in Sydney. Gillo's been on the app looking at all the permutations for what the weather might be. So there's a little bit of rain around in Sydney. It has been for a couple of days, and the forecast is not so bad for Wednesday, but either side it is, and it's been wet in Sydney. So while, once again, and in big games, the kicking game sometimes is the key to performance, and more so in the wet.
Yeah, it certainly will be. And I should imagine that most of the time we'll see Munster in charge of the tactical kicking. The one thing that New South Wales do have, they have a wonderful fullback in James Tedesco. His positional play is as good as I've ever seen it from any fullback. He's quite remarkable. He almost dictates terms to the opposition kicker. He'll make them kick where no one likes to see the ball come down the throat of the opposition. But he almost stands in a position where he offers open spaces to the kicker, and they'll kick it, and 9 times out of 10 it turns out to be the right decision from Tedesco. he's a very talented fullback, and the experience that he's got certainly will be a benefit for New South Wales.
I think we've got a few options there with our kink game too. Obviously, you've got Kalen there, left footer. You've got Munster's a left footer. Walker's right, and then obviously Harry Grant out of 9 that can jump out and put some long field kicks in. So a few options there, which is great for us. And then obviously look at New South Wales. I think they're Moses and Cleary, they're their own options, and they're both right footers. So
who do you reckon they'll target New South Wales at the back for Queensland? Because Selwyn Cobbo's back for Origin, and we've got Jojo Fafita making his debut, and of course Kalen Ponga back there at fullback in wet conditions. A lot of pressure in the modern game on the back three, not only to take the high ball or the deep ball, but also to be bringing it back.
Well, what do you reckon? Well, you'd be kicking to Jojo Fafita straight away.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
Just to see, and if he handles it really well and his confidence is high and he makes the most of it, well, they might take a late change and say we've got to change that.
And we probably need to kick to Kohler. You think?
Yeah.
As well. He's been playing centre for Manly.
Yeah, exactly.
He's now on the wing.
And a good player.
Yeah.
Great player, but. Yeah, as you're saying,
he's not used to the week in, week out.
That's right, mate. And that's you hit the nail on the head there, where he's been playing in the centres. Now he's out to the wing. The change, it mightn't be all that uncomfortable for some, but perhaps in a game of this importance and with the pressure attached, it could be a little bit of a difficult occasion.
In the modern day, the grounds are way better than they used to be. So the heavy legs on a wet field won't necessarily play a role, but for these players playing their first game, and so many FOGs that I've spoken to, and you mentioned it earlier, Gilly, about the speed of the game, for these young players coming in wet conditions, if it is raining on a heavy field, does that take any more out of the body in Origin than a normal club game?
For sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. And because, as we just said before, I still... When we talk about this, you always think back to your debut, because you did mention it before, blokes, mate, they're playing their first game, and you go, mate, you're dead set, you're dragging your ass on the ground like you wouldn't believe, and you think you were fit, and all the young blokes, everyone would have said to these boys making their debuts, especially the New South Wales blokes, have said, it'll be the fastest game, and all the young blokes will go, oh, yeah, I got it covered. Yet I'll be right. And they won't. And at some stage they'll be dead set knackered and thinking, holy moly, they'll look at the clock and go, shit, there's 60 minutes to go. You know what I mean? So, I think it's the who handles that mentally the best as well. So it's good to see that, they've got a lot more. What have they got? 7? I think making their debut, is it 7?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah. So, including obviously the bench and stuff like that. So,
that's going to be an interesting thing to look at, the bench for the first time with those 6 players, and we've seen it in the NRL this year how tactical it can be, and if an injury comes early, what coaches do to cover certain positions. We've got those players on the bench now. Only 4 can be used, but we were chatting before we started on air here. Say, for example, the Maroons, do you see Ezra Mam and Gimet Chibasaki, and for the Blues, Ethan Strange and Casey McLean, are sort of the 2 in case of emergency type players on the bench, or could you see them potentially getting game time without a problem?
What do you reckon, What?
Oh, to be honest, I think it could well be judged by the conditions. He'll leave it right to the end, but anything can happen there, and I think that's the great bonus for the coach to be able to make a decision like that. Who do I think it's going to be? I think I'm prepared to wait until I see what the conditions are on the game, on the day.
I think the previous years, I think Billy sort of was putting that outside back on the bench anyway.
Yeah, he was.
The format,
he did. He did.
I think there's some sort of stat that early in those games they lost.
It's remarkable.
They lost to outside back, and then you're sitting there going, "Oh, what do we do?" But obviously everything's covered for us. You got Kurt Capewell as well that can play in the centres and whatnot. Now that again, those.
But it means your 4th player. you're going to be a little bit wary about putting them in too early, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're going to hold back just in case. And when do I pull that ripcord? When do I use all my force so we've got none left? Do you wait to the second half? Do we go to deep into the, say 20 minutes to go before we see the fourth player come on?
I'm just trying to think who it was that we all said, what did Billy have on the bench, remember?
Yeah, I think it was last year.
Yeah, and when, and we needed him straight away.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I said he's a genius now. He's. Anyway.
I can't remember off the top of the head.
Yeah.
But I just think that's something to watch on Wednesday night. How these coaches who have not had 1 minute of coaching in the NRL this year under that system, they're obviously going to get a lot of advice, and they're very clever. Billy Slater and Laurie Daly are not for a minute suggesting they won't have a clue. But I just think it'll be one of those little intriguing side battles or side plays as to how the respective coaches use their interchange and which players they decide to throw out there in the game. It could well come down to one of those key moments in a game. What do you guys see as Queensland's strength heading into game one? Where's the focal point for Queensland where you think they may have the edge over New South Wales?
Well, I think our forward pack, to be honest, and obviously New South Wales, they're great players, both teams. There's no doubt about it. So, but I just like our the work rate of the Reuben Cotters, the Maxi Plaffs, Harry Grant, and those type of players, and Paddy when he comes on as well. It's just they're hard-working players, and not the flashy type of blokes, but they've got an enormous work rate, and I think that, especially as you said, the conditions, and that's going to play a huge part. So I think like as you said before, Kurt and Gillo said it. Kurt Capewell, he can play anywhere for us in the back line as well. Well, he's not going to play fullback, of course, but he can play in the centres if need be. But I just think we kind of got everything covered a little bit better than New South Wales, and I'm really keen to see, like Gillo said, I think there's going to be some carnage in the first 5-10 minutes of the game.
And I think the coaches, particularly Billy's, going to be working overtime in being able to rotate the forwards and the work that they're expected to do. The back three of the scrum, Cotter, Capewell and Plath, they're not going to run out of petrol. They'll be working their backsides off, but certainly there's also the opportunity to bring Paddy Carrigan and the like onto. To be able to give him a little bit of a spell. So that for Queensland is certainly a big bonus and one that we're very glad that we have.
Yeah, couldn't agree more with the boys there. Obviously our size and of our pack and our boys coming off the bench is going to bring a lot of impact into our game. But I think if you look at both our wingers, you got Cobbo and Jojo Fafita there on debut, but a bit of size there as well when we're coming out of trouble and to try and get our set started on the front on the front foot. So, I think those boys can work quite well, and they've got a bit of size about them and can really generate some quick play the balls, and then our players can just play off the back of that. And Cam Munster and obviously Sammy Walker there as well. I think they're both similar style of players where they just play what's in front of them, and the way our game's going, I think that'll suit them very well.
Well, I reckon that obviously. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to work it out that Sammy Walker's going to be targeted in defence. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. So Ola Kalatu, and those type of blokes.
So Wally, sorry Gilly, but Wally, I was going to ask you about if you were wearing 6, if you're Cam Munster, how much time do you spend talking to Sam Walker in the lead up to the game? Where and when, for example, you do it in camp? Do you do it on a daily basis? Do you leave certain things to before you run out? If you're playing with Sam Walker on debut, how much time do you spend talking about the game, or can you over-analyse or over-talk to a debutant?
Oh, no, I think that it'll work in a couple of different ways. I think that, certainly Munster will be able to convince Sam, that he certainly deserves it. Has had wonderful performances so far for the Chooks, and done it extremely well. He'll let him know that when he wants the ball to give it. But having watched a few of his games so far, he's got the ability, Sam. There's not much of him, and he's pretty quick off the mark to be able to target some of the bigger forwards for the opposition. I've got no doubt that he'll probably give it to Munster when he wants it, but he's also got to just keep in the back of his mind that there are other opportunities, and it's not a one-man side for Queensland that they're putting up.
Who's going to kick goals, Kalen Ponga or Sam Walker?
Ooh. I'm going to go with
I reckon,
KP.
yeah, it might be Sam.
Yeah, probably.
Who would you go? Would you go Kalen because he's more experienced?
Yeah,
Or Sam, so to take that pressure off him? Or is Sam Walker one of those blokes that wants to be involved as much as possible and sees the goal kicking as something that he wants to do?
I reckon if Sam Walker set someone up with a short ball for a try, give it to him. Yeah.
But it could be a big call. They're both really
Kalen
good kickers.
Ponga's-
Ponga's been kicking really well since he came back from injury.
Yeah, and on the other side of the coin, the Blues have a guy that very rarely misses. He's a wonderful player, but as accurate a goal kicker as I've ever seen in my lifetime. He's we don't want to give penalties away, put it that way.
No.
It seems that a lot of people suggest that Nathan Cleary really hasn't dominated at origin level as he has at club level. Does that concern you that chatter, and mainly I think from down south more than anything, continues to grow and he might feel as though he has a point to prove? Or does he? I don't know that he does have a point to prove.
I don't think it matters for us, really, for Queensland.
Well, if it inspires him to play even better than he has.
Well, he's obviously in that team and he's been there for a while now, so no doubt it's probably in the back of his mind and he wants to prove people wrong. But Nathan Cleary's a great player regardless.
Yeah,
he's always going to put his
I've
best
seen
foot
him
forward.
in the Australian side and lucky enough to be on the field and when Mel was coaching and he's one. Actually, I don't like giving New South Wales blokes a rap too much.
Don't do it.
Yeah, he's very unselfish. You know what I mean? So he'll give it to his heart, he's six, all the time, and so I think he's he could be a bit more dominant if he wanted to be. So hopefully he's not. He's not.
He stood out most when Penrith went through that little bit of a tough run. Earlier and they didn't look like they had danger in their attacking play anymore. There was one bloke that got them going, and it was Cleary. He basically led the way for them. I remember watching him cart the ball forward, thinking, he's going to get smashed. He's running with the ball. He wasn't just trying to add points to the scoreboard. He was trying to inspire those around him. He does that extremely well. He's going to have a lot more players around him that are wonderful attacking players for the Blues, but certainly he is one of those guys that I think that we cannot underestimate. He's
a better defender too than I thought he was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's improved out of sight, especially he doesn't mind the one-on-one. He's not one of them halves too that just trying to grab hold of the bloke to get his edge.
Likes the contact.
And his edge forward to come in and give him a hand. He can do it himself. So that's a big plus for a halfback if you can put a forward down one-on-one. I mean, that's a big plus.
So no doubt, all tipping Queensland. So in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of Origin 1, I want you each to tell me what you are looking for that gives you confidence that Queensland... What does Queensland have to do well in the first 10 to 20 minutes that makes you think, yep, they're on, we're going to win this?
For me, it's pretty simple. It's all the little things in the game that matter. That you kick pressure, you inside assist, you're talking the tackles, making sure you put them on their back. Just doing your job to make someone else's job easier. I think that's what Origin's sort of built on, that you can get out there. Obviously, it's going to be pretty frantic at the start, but doing those little extra things for your teammates that really matters, and that'll obviously help by the end of the game.
I'd be thinking trying to get everyone's first contact right, especially if it's going to say it's going to be wet. So you got to check your footwork coming into the tackle as well, because you can slip over in contact and things like that. It's all about getting your feet in the right position. You know what I mean? So I think defensively, if you're on early and maybe you pop a few balls out, you know, and they go, because that can be deflating for the opposition when a couple of balls come spraying out and someone's hit their shoulder onto the ball. So I think defensively, if you can get it gives you a bit of a confidence boost.
Yeah, and defensively, speed off the ground. That's where they need to do it and be able to get into the sniper roles. And by that I mean getting up to be the marker, the one that's going to put the pressure on the intended ball receivers for New South Wales. They'll be, if they've had a bit of a bonus in recent performances, it's been their speed off the ground, where they keep making territory, and Queensland have been on the back foot going backwards. They've bravely stood up to it, the Maroons, but there's certainly going to be one of those occasions about to take place again.
Well, once again, it promises to be a cracking Origin. Game 1 in Sydney, Game 2 then in Melbourne before we return to Accor Stadium for Game 3, and it will be a terrific series, no doubt, again in 2026. We're back with our review on Thursday, May 28th, so keep an eye out for that. Click that bell, the notification bell, to make sure you don't miss our review. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, FOGS Queenslander Podcast. On behalf of Wally Lewis, Trevor Gilmister and Matt Gillett, I'm Mark Braybrook. It's goodbye for now. Thanks for watching this episode of the FOGS Queenslander Podcast. If there's a FOG you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.